First slide I just want to share with this. This was actually the slide that I continued to use in front of City Council at our study sessions and the actual hearings for our REACH code adoption here in Santa Rosa. Next slide, please. So just a little precursor to some of the things we have here on this slide. It ended up being a very challenging time to go forth with an aggressive, so to speak, code change. All electric only was the preferred approach. We were here in the North Bay, we're still in the throes of disaster recovery from some pretty significant fires, and then had some afterwards as well. And then a new element started really becoming part of electricity discussions, in that was the PG&E Public Safety Power Shutoffs, PSPS. So it was a difficult conversation to have initially with the community and developers and builders when we started talking about creating homes that relied on electricity only without fossil fuels, when the prospect of power being shut off fairly frequently throughout periods of the year, especially in the fall, were very likely. So that was an interesting timing aspect that this came about. The PSPS hadn't really been fully developed when the early discussions of an all-electric REACH code were had, but by the time PSPS came around, we were on full roll, so to speak, with developing the all-electric REACH code. So it was an interesting time, to say the least. And so I won't go over, Andre's a tough act to follow. He's got a lot of great information. Many of the code adoptions follow an extremely similar path. Here in Santa Rosa, very specifically, we did provide council with some options at their request, starting through our climate action subcommittee, to look at all electric preferred or electric preferred, in different alternatives. And the council eventually landed on they wanted all electric only. And these are just some highlights here of the general information that most folks know what that means. And these are the targeted areas for eliminating fossil fuel or fuels in the home for domestic water heating, space heating, cooking, clothes drying, swimming pool and spa water heating where applicable. And the interesting thing that evolved out of it, there were two primary opponents, aspects, and most of those surrounded cooking as the number one opposition feature, meaning that most folks didn't want to give up their gas cooking. And then, maybe surprisingly, maybe not, the second most identified feature was gas fireplaces. As we know, almost in many instances under certain air districts, you can't even have solid fuel devices installed within new construction whatsoever, depending on the air district. Next slide, please. So again, this is some repeated information, so I won't beat it up too much. Andre went over the process of adoption really well. As we know, the most opportune time to make these changes with an ordinance, they're almost always reflected in some process that's already underway. So the triannual code cycle is the most appropriate approach in our opinion. So we did move forward doing the required process. And I will have to say, we also targeted the California Energy Code for embedding the REACH code, and with a significant amount of assistance from BayREN personnel on getting documentation together and working through their resources and partners, along with the local Sonoma Clean Power partner. The documentation came through, in really strong support, and to be able to prove out the need for the adoption. And again, we have referenced here a cost-effective study that was executed that we were able to utilize here locally. Next slide, please. This was an interesting twist to the all-electric code. In Assembly Bill 178 was signed by the governor in September of 2019. In an umbrella description, it essentially exempts a requirement to install photovoltaic on rebuild or reconstruction of homes within a certain time period identified in the law. So essentially our Tubbs-Nuns fire of 2017 fit the time frame and the imposition of this law, exempting those rebuilds from installing photovoltaic. And per the calculation method for being able to go all electric only, photovoltaic is needed to be shown to be cost effective. So by proxy, this bill exempted our disaster recovery rebuilds for our Tubbs-Nuns fire of 2017. By proxy, we're exempted from the all electric only ordinance. So our rebuilds continue to be built as standard compliance with the base California Electric and California Green Code. Next slide, please. So this is just something that we put together. This was posted on our All Electric Reach Code website. These were the numerous different avenues we took for public outreach. This was a really interesting and educational process going through the public outreach. It was not only educational for the public, but very educational for staff and myself in getting really the grassroots representation from all sides. We had have and continue to have a large advocacy for climate action here, and that was one of the primary drivers for the all electric only code. And they were able to, provide their information and support for the ordinance, whilst we also had the numerous different public forums with builders only, where the public could also be there, but it was targeted at builders and developers to hear their perspectives, to be able to get out on the table all of the opposing facts from all sides. So it was a really great experience for me, doing my first official code adoption as a brand new baby building official, kind of thrown into this mix. It was a great opportunity for me. Next slide, please. And again, this is some repeated information, much like Andre indicated and our BayREN partners talked about as far as the adoption and implementation. We know that there's the code cycle aspect of it, the cost effectiveness study acceptance, development and acceptance. And then again, BayREN's, I throw BayREN out again, as their staff were instrumental in utilizing their resources and their abilities to modify the California Electric Code or Energy Code language to really fit within an ordinance and be very useful for almost any jurisdiction if they're going the state code adoption route for their ordinance. It fit really well. And the assistance that we've received from the BayREN folks, I just can't thank them enough for that. Next slide, please. Again, some of our lessons that we learned that we've heard repeated already early in this forum. Outreach is extremely important. Each municipality and county and city, they're different on their dynamic and their makeup, but making sure that we're open and providing all the information to the public and stakeholders. I really was able to see the value in that and being able to get support to be able to get this ordinance through. lesson learned for me was anticipate what I coined as strong and lively opposition and support. Interesting meetings that were held, as one might imagine. It was quite the publicized issue here in our area, so it garnered quite a good and robust conversation on a weekly basis. Somebody mentioned, I think Andre again mentioned his appreciation for his legal team. Same from our legal team. They were imperative in ensuring that we were meeting the mandates of state law to get our local law adopted in the way that we did. And one key thing that as most in the code adoption realm understand, that locally to adopt or enact a local law or ordinance, the California Environmental Quality Act has to be addressed in each adoption. And we ended up writing a 5-page memo in support of CEQA exemptions, and we cited 3 specific exemptions. And and most people know, it's now public knowledge, that the city of Santa Rosa was, we entered litigation in opposition to this adopted ordinance. The courts found in the city's favor. The primary complaint was due to citing CEQA exemptions, and the courts found that we cited them accurately and applied them correctly. Then a subsequent appeal was filed to that court finding, and luckily, again, I can discuss it, that appeal has been withdrawn. So it's been quite a process supporting the adoption of the ordinance, but we are here now entering into nearly 1 year from the next code cycle. And I think we are really, especially with the court findings, on solid ground to continue to move forward with, yet again, either similar or more advanced reach codes in the near future. And that's it for me. Thank you.